You feel the floor tilt before you hear the sound. A low groan rolls up through the concrete under your shoes. Your coffee cup slides off the desk. It shatters, but you don't process that yet, because now the walls are moving too. Not shaking. Moving, like the whole building has decided to breathe. This is Port-au-Prince, Haiti, January 12, 2010, 4:53 in the afternoon. You have roughly 35 seconds before the structure around you decides whether you live or die. 230,000 people did not get to walk away from what happens next. You are about to find out which group you're in. Your first instinct is to run. Don't. Running is what kills most people in the first 10 seconds of a collapse, and you're about to learn exactly why. The ground beneath Haiti's capital had been building this moment for centuries. Two tectonic plates, grinding past each other for 250 years without slipping, had locked a fault line under the city like a coiled spring. When it finally released, it did so in under a minute. A minute was enough to bring down an estimated 300,000 buildings, many of them built without steel reinforcement, without earthquake codes, stacked on hillsides like cards. You're on the third floor of one of them. The lights are already gone. Dust is filling the air faster than you can process it, thick and gray, and it tastes like chalk and rust. Do you dive for the doorway, or do you get under something solid? Get under something solid. Doorways are a myth left over from old wooden frame houses that don't exist in most modern buildings anymore. In a concrete structure, a doorframe carries no more structural weight than the wall next to it, and it will not protect you when the ceiling comes down. What will protect you is a strong table, a sturdy desk, anything rigid enough to hold a small pocket of space open above you if the floor above collapses. Seismologists call this the void space, and inside collapsed buildings, it's the single biggest factor separating survivors from casualties. Dan Woolley knew this, though not because he'd studied it. He was an American aid worker staying at the Hotel Montana in Port-au-Prince when the quake hit, and when the stairwell gave way beneath him, he was thrown down 2 flights and buried under rubble in a hotel gift shop. He broke his leg. He was bleeding from a head wound. And for the next 65 hours, trapped in darkness with almost no room to move, he did something that likely kept him alive. He used the first aid app on his phone to treat his own injuries, packing his leg wound to control the bleeding and rationing his phone's dying battery to send a final video message to his family, believing it might be the last thing they ever heard from him. He was pulled out alive 3 days later. 65 hours. Think about that number for a second. Now think about what your body is doing to you during that time, because the building collapsing is only the first threat. The second one is slower, and far more people never see it coming. Let's walk through what happens if you're pinned, not crushed, but pinned, a slab of concrete resting on your legs, heavy enough that you cannot move but not heavy enough to kill you outright. In the first hour, you feel pain, cold, panic. By hour 4, your trapped limb starts to swell. By hour 12, something is happening inside that muscle tissue that you cannot see and cannot feel yet, but it will decide whether you survive the rescue itself. This is where the real killer hides. It's called crush syndrome, and doctors who study earthquake trauma will tell you it's one of the cruelest twists in disaster medicine. The moment you're finally freed can be the moment you die. When crushed muscle tissue is deprived of blood flow for hours, it starts to break down and release toxic byproducts, including a protein called myoglobin, into the tissue itself. As long as the weight stays on the limb, those toxins stay contained. The instant rescuers lift the debris and blood flow rushes back in, all of that toxic buildup floods into the bloodstream at once, and it can shut down the kidneys within minutes. Mehmet Sukrusever, a Turkish nephrologist who has treated crush syndrome patients from earthquakes across 3 continents, has spent decades documenting exactly this pattern. His research helped establish the protocol rescue teams now use, giving trapped survivors fluids intravenously before they're ever pulled free, to flush the coming toxins out before they can do damage. It's why field medics in disaster zones now carry 4 bags to rubble piles, not just stretchers. The building didn't finish trying to kill you when it stopped falling. It just changed tactics. So what's actually happening under the surface while you wait? Somewhere beneath the debris field, seismologists are already mapping what came next. Lucy Jones, a seismologist who spent decades with the United States Geological Survey studying exactly this kind of event, has spent her career explaining a hard truth people don't want to hear: earthquakes don't kill people. Buildings do. The shaking itself lasts under a minute almost everywhere on Earth. It's the unreinforced concrete, the poorly anchored floors, the walls built without rebar, that turn a geological event into a mass casualty one. Haiti's death toll was so catastrophic not because the quake was uniquely powerful, but because so much of the built environment around you had no chance of surviving it. Here's the twist you didn't expect. You've spent this whole scenario bracing for the moment the ceiling falls. But statistically, the thing most likely to hurt you in an earthquake isn't the structure collapsing around you. It's what falls on you before that ever happens: shelving, bookcases, light fixtures, glass, filing cabinets, the ordinary contents of the room you're standing in right now. The emergency responders call this the triangle of life myth debate settled decades ago. Drop, cover, and hold on beats almost every alternative, because the objects closest to you are usually the first and most survivable threat, and getting low and covered buys you time against exactly that. Which means the real danger was never some far-off catastrophic event. It was the unsecured bookshelf 3 feet from where you're sitting right now. Most people never bolt their furniture to the wall. Most people never keep a flashlight, water, and sturdy shoes within reach of their bed. Most people assume the big disaster is something that happens to other cities, other buildings, other countries with worse construction standards, and never something that touches the room they're sitting in today. You made it out. Maybe it took 35 seconds. Maybe, like Dan Woolley, it took 65 hours in the dark, rationing a phone battery and your own will to hold on. Either way, the ground has gone still again. The dust is settling. And somewhere under the wreckage of a city that didn't see it coming, the lesson is the same one it always is: it isn't the earthquake that decides who survives. It's everything you did, or didn't do, in the 35 seconds before you even knew it was happening. You feel the floor tilt again. Only this time, you already know exactly what to do.